Whenever you're ready.
How will humans take the next step into outer space, traveling to Mars, not to visit, but to stay? Mars is the stepping stone of the human race on its voyage into the universe. Today I want to explore the plans of Mars One to colonize the red planet. I've done hours of research and watched documentaries on the subject. Have you ever wanted to live on another planet? Would you ever leave your family and friends behind to have your name go down in history as one of the first people to live on Mars? I will explain how Mars One plans to achieve this, who they plan to send, and why they're going to Mars in the first place. In 2011, the foundation was laid to begin the Mars One expedition. Mars One plans to achieve a permanent human settlement on Mars. They say their mission is simple: send the humans, land them, and keep them alive there. The CEO of Mars One has stated they will send 6 unmanned missions before the arrival of the astronauts. These cargo missions will bring life support units, supply units, and living units, which will be assembled into a habitat by a rover. After 7 months of space travel in the Mars Transit Vehicle, the astronauts will land to become the first human beings on Mars. The budget for Mars One is $6 billion. It is financed by investments and sponsorships, but Mars One will also create a global reality TV show to gain revenue for the mission. Suddenly, there's this Dutch private space travel company going to Mars. People might see this as a way to make their dreams come true. Who are the lucky 4 astronauts chosen for the mission, and are they really lucky? The documentary called Destination Mars shows in 2013 over 200,000 people applied to go one way. Applicants are selected on the basis that they can do the work in a team and that they will be psychologically sound. Only 1 team of 4 will be selected for Mars One. There is constant exposure to radiation on the surface. The atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide, and the average temperature is negative 63 degrees Fahrenheit. The Mars suit will protect astronauts from extreme temperatures, the very thin and non-breathable atmosphere, and harmful radiation. Mars, our closest planetary neighbor, is a seemingly cold and lifeless world. In the same way equipment is being examined, humans are also being tested. Those sent to live and die on Mars face isolation, confinement, and 24-hour Big Brother, with the eyes of the world on them at all times. As a precautionary measure, each astronaut will be trained to do every job for this reason. So why colonize Mars when we have Earth? By going to Mars, we are furthering our understanding of the universe and continuing our exploration into the unknown. In 3 billion years, the sun will have expanded enough to either knock Earth out of its orbit or create such deadly radiation that humans would no longer exist. This resulted in a baseline design for an achievable mission of permanent human settlement on Mars. Eventually, we will be forced to leave our solar system. Mars is one small step in a larger journey. With so many people eager and willing to sacrifice themselves for this cause, Mars One has opened a new era of interplanetary expedition. By 2027, Mars One plans to have created a permanent human settlement. The lucky astronauts chosen will become historical figures, and our perspective of the world will no longer be the same. How long before we abandon Earth completely? The human race depends on the success of this mission before time runs out. So get your ticket to Mars before it's too late.
All right, Sally, you were doing the peer evaluation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what did you think?
I liked your intro. It was very catchy and it made me really think about imagining moving somewhere else than Earth. Thinking of moving to Mars. I thought it was very informative and it gave us options of, what we were going to be provided when we moved to Mars. The only thing I thought that needed a little more work on was just transitioning, of letting us know where you went. But overall, I thought it was good.
Well, the transitioning thing is something that I picked out also. I think you have a tendency to you just get to the next spot and you say it without necessarily kind of finishing up what we had before and moving us to the next point. It feels a little bit abrupt. You kind of let some of the visuals do the transitions for you also. That tells us that we're in a new area as well. So that's not a bad use of the visuals, but it needs to sound a little bit smoother when you're presenting it. All right, I do think Sally missed something else that was kind of important. I didn't hear source citations in the presentation. You had a lot of information, and I don't remember that you cited where you got that information from. You told us the interesting story about Mars One and the expedition, the idea that it's going to be financed by $6 billion and a reality television show. That's an interesting concept. I hadn't heard about the reality television show before. $6 billion sounds like it's not enough money to me, but it's enough money for me, but it's not enough money to me to send a manned mission to Mars and create a permanent habitat there. It sounds like, that seems like it would be low budget process. You had an interesting line in the presentation at one point. We had 200,000 people who volunteered for a one-way trip. And I think you want to emphasize that one way a little bit more and get that, kind of like you do with your exit line, make it a humorous point, because that's in fact one of the things that makes this mission more, well, I guess expedited than maybe the missions that are planned by the government, because they're not really thinking about how they're going to get people back. They're planning on not having them come back. Good luck on that one. It's an interesting concept.
There's people willing to go.
Yeah, no, I know but the world's full of crazy people. It's like you said, it's a big adventure, and I think that's the thing that would draw a lot of people to it. The idea, like you said, of being the first, but that's another one of those things. When you're presenting this information, tell us where that information is coming from. I didn't get that. I thought the visuals were pretty solid. There's a lot of interesting images that you've got there. You don't always explain what's going on. At one point you're talking about the suits, and I thought, okay, that fits in with what you're talking about. Then there's a scene, I assume it's the interior of one of those habitats that's going to be down on the planet. And there's not really much discussion of what's going on there, except that this is where people will have to live forever after they get there. And I think you could point out, as you can see, there's a limited amount of mobility outside of your suit. You'd have to be able to do X, Y, and Z in these circumstances. There's no information about how the technology is going to address issues like, waste disposal, access to water, growing food, any of those sorts of things. And you've got extra time. Your speech was only 4 minutes, so you've got twice as much time as you've used to put some other information into the presentation. And I think that that's something where you've kind of missed a trick. Okay, thank you.